Actually, greet my viewers. We will know a liberal message from such a liberal progressive politicals like me, like Angelinos. Actually, I want to give a few comments about what Los Angeles City Council meeting, where actually latest one yesterday, it occurred yesterday, Wednesday on February 29th. Where actually I managed to interview council member, conservative council member, Miss Jan Perry. But actually, this African American lady, told me that she wouldn't raise taxes against oil producing manufacturers. When I asked her if she was going to raise taxes against all produce manufacturers, to replenish city coffers. She told me no, and she, briefly, she told me no, and she didn't tell me anything else as well, because she actually didn't care to tell me anything else. And when I was making my statement with racist council member, Mr. Bernard Parks, the one who hired terrorists to kill innocent Latino immigrants in this community, who hired Rafael Perez, for instance, and Nina Dutton as well, and Robert Mack as well, the bank robber, to actually terrorize local residents, to terrorize immigrants. Actually, that guy turned away, that so-called patrician of that Los Angeles City Council, turned his chair away as soon as I approached the podium. That guy was so reactionary that he turned away his chair from me, just not to see me. That was his reaction of this so-called conservative member of Los Angeles City Council. In spite of those many cracks, in the asphalt, many cracks on the road and unpaved road, Los Angeles City Council members do nothing, to fix those roads. You can expect nothing but demagoguery from those guys. Instead, we conduct secret meetings, which I seriously oppose. And I hope that this kind of guys like Garcetti, Krikorian, and Parks, and Juan Juarez, and Rosendale, and that Tony Cardenas, we're all imperialist mercenaries of American imperialism. These guys are neo-fascists who sold out to the wealthy and selling out Angelinos to Narcomafia. They are the ones that are responsible for illegal city ordinance 181530 that illegally legalized the sales of harmful narcotic marijuana in the city of Los Angeles, issued in December 2010. They are the ones that refuses to accept the union conditions of the unions, to establish high wages and pensions for union members. We are the ones who maintain a city budget deficit by refusing to raise taxes against all produce manufacturers. Those guys are Republicans, and most likely neo-fascists. Maybe some of them are Democrats, but still, those people are luckily city council members are very conservative, neo-fascist, reactionaries, and it is a very good idea that they wouldn't show up next year in the city council, or they resign and never show up in the city council again. Actually, I believe that I asked Los Angeles to come to downtown Los Angeles and tell those council members that she should resign because they refuse to raise tax against gasoline and corporations, because they allowed selling of harmful narcotic marijuana in the city of Los Angeles. Well, 56% of California voted against Proposition 19, voted against legalization of harmful narcotic marijuana. And actually, as we are democracy, we live in democracy, my party that prevented, opposed the legalization of marijuana won. So I will be supported by 56% of Californians, because in order to shut down those illegal medical marijuana dispensaries. So-called this is cover up for bandits to sell them the harmful narcotics, including our weeds and a number of our illegal controlled substances. which they do, because if they allow them to sell one harmful narcotic, they definitely vendors will turn to switch to our harmful narcotic in order to hook up substance abusers and rip them off. They charge up to $200 per 1 ounce of harmful narcotic marijuana, but now the price was cheaper, like $40 per 1 ounce. And actually, but still, to rip off prices, people will actually find themselves without money, being ripped off with substance abusers, and will lose their ability to experience pleasure. That's what happens. They lose their memory, lose their eye-hand coordination, will lose lots of inhibitions, and when any kind of physical and mental ailments will be exacerbated by these harmful narcotics, because narcotics have the ability, like alcohol, harmful narcotic, to exacerbate any physical or mental condition a person has, and may cause crisis of such a condition and acute state, and bring about acute states of both mental and physical ailments and disorders. And I believe that, like it's been one observed in people at meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, I once seen one guy who was in a stupor, as he confessed that he had abused harmful narcotic marijuana, and stupor was the consequence, the harmful consequence of substance abuse he was experiencing. He was sitting about immobile with a jaw dropped down and gaping at us, like in our case, in a catatonic state of mind. Well, actually, I believe that I've seen a number of marijuana abusers, looking around, sitting in a catatonic stupor, and gazing immobile, with a kind of deluded and demented expression on their faces. That's the way substance abusers look. Do you want to look like them? Do you want to lose your money, lose your health? I think not. I think that 56% of Californians, a relative majority of the state voters, oppose any sales of so-called medical marijuana dispensaries, which doesn't have pose any medication on whatsoever. Instead, so-called harmful narcotic marijuana is Schedule 1 narcotic, very harmful, and responsible for loss of memory, loss of eye-hand coordination, loss of inhibitions, and psychosis as well, for exacerbation of all mental and health disorders and ailments. And I believe that when actually substance voters elect me as a California State Assembly members, I'll be able to legislate a ban, a comprehensive ban against with harmful narcotic marijuana, which will prohibit and shut down all those so-called medical marijuanas in a mandatory order, enforced by local police. And I very much hope that local police and sheriff deputies will cooperate in shutting down all those medical marijuana dispensaries, because they actually proliferate disease, proliferate narcomafia and narcomania, and loss of inhibition, and contribute with problems of the community. And actually, I believe that also what occurred yesterday in Los Angeles City Council was actually was a contribution to so-called city politics as usual, and we try to actually get what city parking enforcement, and well, actually was some actually said that well, actually yeah. Also, there was problem with chairman of a meeting, Mr. Weston, it's a council member from West Los Angeles area. He actually used to ban people, who signed up to and actually
talk at your podium in a most illegal manner, and he here outrageous reactionary, and ask was city council members to remove Mr. Wesson from that chairman view, because now he's nothing but a hindrance to progress. This guy is a reactionary who prohibits his political opponents from speaking, like a neo-Nazi like he is. And I believe city council members are a disgrace to American politics. And the sooner the federal government will indict and prosecute them for criminal conspiracy to distribute narcotics in the city of Los Angeles, the better off America as a nation will be. No banks, no financial institution, no business, no serious businesses or large capital group will ever invest in the city of Los Angeles unless the city of Los Angeles stops selling narcotics, narcotic marijuana, and within city limits. And unless that happens, there will be no favorable conditions for investment in Los Angeles area. And very much in the second. Me and Lofaz and Angelinos wait for our Section 8 housing vouchers. And we wait more than, some wait more than 3 years. And nowadays there's a line for Section 8 housing vouchers being closed down as the reactionaries prevailed in the city government. And I demand that actually there will be demonstration and people go out and demand more city housing vouchers for us working poor people, and we are going determined to get